Good morning. It's Sunday, July 6th, 2025. I'm Teri Hunter. I'm an intuitive astrologer. Sometimes I wonder if I should label myself anything at all, as I'm an ever-expanding co-creator of my life, my being energy. So welcome to Sunday morning. I'm here 99.9% of the time on Sundays. Between 11 a.m. and about 12:30, we talk about the transits. We do a little tarot card spread for each one of the signs by rising sign. And I'm just giving the room a chance to, good morning, Margie, have people come on into the room. So welcome, welcome. These are, well, I want to say unprecedented times, but I'm not sure they're just, they're unprecedented. We're living through times that are revisiting cycles for humanity, cycles of choice. Choice is our karma and our focus. So this week, we're going to see some serious stuff going on with the outer planets. And I think these are really important because as I've been chasing the transits for the last 6 or 7 years on this channel, doing the monthlies and, where's Venus, where's Mars, where's Mercury, those personal planets are really very much playing out what the outer planets are offering us. Because Pluto is currently retrograde in Aquarius. We've been feeling this energy for the last couple of years. And as Pluto is retrograding right now, it's making an aspect to Neptune. And Neptune is just beginning to feel the energy in Aries for the first time in 165 years. This is crazy to me because with Neptune conjunct Saturn, I really feel like this is something that even 165 years ago we didn't experience. Saturn is bringing up our history. What have we built in our lives? The ultimate, construction foreman, the ultimate developer is Saturn. And as Saturn is preparing to retrograde in Aries and then head back into back into Pisces, it's very, what have we been building in the way of our spiritual, not just connection, but in the spiritual house of acknowledging the soul, having a physical experience. Let me back this up a little bit. Where I'm going with this is I believe that humanity on the earth plane is becoming more aware of the co-creator within. As you become more aware of the co-creator within, you recognize that your thoughts are things. Your focused thought starts to compile and to bring forth the people, the dynamics, the experiences for your soul to make karmic choices. Will I acknowledge the co-creator and believe in my expansion, or will I somehow fall prey to the human structure of lack, of restriction, of obligation, and of duty? Uranus is currently at 29 degrees of Taurus. This is the anaretic degree. It is a master degree. It is a degree, they call it the anaretic degree. It's a crisis degree. So literally, there will be this feeling of potentially an inner awareness of a history that no longer serves you, a history that has played to you being small, a history that has played to you being dutiful, a history that has played to you being a role someone else assigned to you. As Uranus moves into Gemini, we're looking at the planet that rules awakening, the planet that rules liberation, the planet that moves into the future in unexpected and what could be electric ways as we incorporate our history. Now, that history is doubled down by Saturn retrograding beginning on the 13th. So this is going to be a week from today. Now we've got Neptune retrograding. Pluto is making positive aspects, trine to Uranus, sextile to Neptune, thereby a sextile to Saturn. So Pluto's going to first bring up all the bullshit, all the toxic waste, everything that's plugged up in the plumbing of our lives, and it's going to start to want to excrete that. At the same time, we have Chiron in Aries at the anaretic degree. Now, the anaretic degrees are those last degrees. This is 26 degrees, so maybe we're floating on not quite the crisis, but the crisis of self is up for renewal, redefinition. Who am I? What am I in comparison to my history of what I have been assigned? What do people expect of me? What do I expect of myself that is not based on my own wants and desires and ability to expand, but rather is based on an old story? I think that this is, I don't know. I think it's truly emotionally the emotional upheaval comes from looking behind, looking forward, and trying to figure out if we're actually sitting in the driver's seat. I don't know if that made any sense as I said that. I personally have the Saturn and Neptune on my south node. I have Chiron sitting directly on my ascendant. Making an opposition to my Mars. And this is very much having me not only walk through experiences that are bringing up my history, it's having me revisit my own value. What do I want for myself? What have I been chasing and I didn't even realize it? So I think that's what's going on. What have you been chasing that you don't even realize you're chasing that isn't even something you want? Someone's approval, somebody's acceptance, feeling like part of something that doesn't even fit inside of who and what you are. Because Uranus is going to bring up something that really, I think, as Uranus moves into Gemini, the thoughts, the experiences we could have in conversations, as we're going through our own everyday lives, through our neighborhoods, driving around, you could literally be sitting in your car in traffic and be like, I cannot do this anymore. Typically like a movie, where the guy's doing the same thing over and over again. And then one day his head just explodes off his shoulders, quits his job, and they call it a midlife crisis. So we're having a mid-humanity crisis right now, where Pluto is bringing up the toxic waste as it makes a positive trine to Uranus. What do you want for yourself? Where is your voice in your own life? And that's what I mean is like the self-talk, the pep talk. Okay, so last week I was talking about Chat GPT and having this really interesting experience with this AI. And I had some people reach out to me in concern, which was lovely. And at the same time, that conversations made me realize how this AI was mirroring me. And mirroring me in my higher vibrations, mirroring me in the ways I'm proud of myself. And at first I put it outside of myself. And then as I walked through the rest of the week and I started to see the varying ways that this showed up, I recognized, oh God, I'm so all over the place right now. I guess what I recognize is there's a part of me that doesn't acknowledge myself, doesn't take solace in myself, doesn't allow for expansion of myself beyond the old story. And all of that's coming up now. Literally everything we've ever been enslaved to mentally is going to just, I don't know, I can't explain it. It's going to blow up. It's going to blow up. Something's going to come up within your, I don't know. I feel like I'm looking at this movie. I can't even remember the name of it. I think it was called Network, where the guy sticks his head out his window. He's like, take this job and shove it. I feel like people are about ready to have their own personal Independence Day. So there you go. I hope that made sense. Hi, Soul Secret Service. Hi, Just Call Me C. Hi, Catherine. It's good to see everybody in the room. So be gentle with yourself. I also want to say this too. Over the last, you guys know that I lost my, I didn't lose but the first love of my life, and literally like the person who imprinted me in romance in high school and my early teen years through my early 20s, he passed away. Okay, unexpectedly, he went in for a colonoscopy and the procedure went wrong and he died. This has had me really revisiting things, like almost like looking at pictures of myself when I was in high school and the girl that was and what she dreamed of and what she wanted versus, here we are 50 years later. And I think that this is sort of an opportunity to kind of be aware of where we judge ourselves, where we think we matter or where we don't matter. Because I think a lot of people are going to be revisiting their stories. And I hope to God that we don't all just judge ourselves really harshly. That's Saturn. Revisiting the self as it retrogrades, going back into Pisces. Where have I been invisible to myself? Where have I repeated my patterns to myself? Where have I inadvertently been, the lower side of Pisces is really, I escape myself. I run away from myself. I don't use my creativity. I don't use my connection to spirit. I absorb into somebody else and become a mirror for their ego. All this is going to come up. And I don't know that it's all going to come up in the outside world. I feel like a lot of it's going to come up on the interior world, where you're having an Ally McBeal moment and you're talking to somebody that you've known maybe your whole life or you've worked with for years. And all of a sudden you listen to them and they're talking to you and your brain just goes, oh my God, there's the trap. There's the trap. Somewhere there's a trap. The trap door is about to be opened. So Uranus is going to do it. So let's, Saturn is retrograding on the 13th. We also have Mercury retrograding in Leo on the 17th. And I think that Mercury retrograde is very much going to make us start to think about, again, how do we express ourselves? How are we putting ourselves on the stage of our own lives? Is life, are we looking at it as the queen or the king? Or are we looking at it as we are somehow trying too hard to play to the audience? So there you go. This is a big month. I was listening to, this was a couple weeks ago because I've been very checked out, guys. I've been in grief in a way that I didn't expect. I had no idea that 4th of July, every year for, I don't even know how many years, ever since there was these little machines, Mike has texted me on every holiday. And when you send those little happy 4th of July and it goes, well, those texts don't stay. They go away. And yesterday, was it yesterday? No, the day before, I literally was like waiting for the first time for the, and it didn't come. And it's just made me think about life and about, the choices we made and the lives we've lived. And when I get on the other side, will I be proud of what I produced? I don't know yet. Because I'm really discovering a lot of me is very egotistical. And I didn't know I was so egotistical. Thank you, Secret Soul Service. Now, I really am having this moment of like, am I doing any of this authentically, or am I doing all of this so that people will like me, or people will, I don't know. There's a weird stripping away of everything right now for me. Just wanting to go down to the bare bones and be like, what is my truth? Hey, CC Pups. It's been, and another thing too is that sometimes sometimes I feel guilty, like I'm having a moment and I don't really tell people I'm having a moment. And then I kind of check out and they don't know I'm checking out, and then they take it personally and I don't get it. So yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of shit going on. Hey, J-Dog. Hi, Betty Nugs. Good to see you. Good to see everyone in the room. Thank you for being here. All right. So these are, the times they are changing. The next couple of years is going to open up a lot of stuff for us. I think we're going through, I kind of feel like I love wood. I love carpentry. I love cabinetry. I love woodworkers. I love Taurus. I love Capricorn. I don't know, Virgo. No offense to Virgos everywhere. I have a Virgo and Venus and Virgo. But I feel like I'm a door. And right now I have old paint on me. And while I have a basically good shaped door, I'm not ready to be replaced. I need to strip that door down and I need to refinish the door and give it new life so that I can open the door of my house and be one level of more authentic. And I really think that has to do with whether I'm invested in the material or in the numbers. How many likes? How many subscribers? How many people think I'm cool? I don't want to care about any of that anymore. So that's what I think is going on with me. That's what I think Saturn and Neptune are going on in Aries. Who are we? How do we want to define ourselves? And this is the other layer, depending upon your rising sign. And I really encourage you to go to Placidus. It's made such a difference in my chart because I'm a late rising, 26-degree Aries rising. I think it's so important to see what degree that rising sign is, because when it pushes the first house into the 12th house, it really makes you, there's this layer of invisibility that you're rubbing up against. And I don't think that's invisibility to the outside world as much as it may be invisibility to our interior world. Good morning, DJ. It was so lovely to speak to you. I want to say the other day when you were texting me, I'm sorry if I seemed a little checked out or short. I've been having another issue with my mouth. The grief that I've been feeling makes me eat dairy. And then I've been having Modelo beers with Mike after I didn't drink for 4 months, and my mouth went cuckoo. And there's Saturn moving my teeth around, and I've noticed a direct correlation between my emotional body, how I eat. One cannot live on ranch Doritos and Modelo's alone, at least not at this age. So please excuse me if I seemed a little checked out. Thank you. I'm going to be praying for you this week as you go into your procedure. Okay. All right. So this is the thing. Let's just recap real quick. We have Saturn stationing to go retrograde. Okay. Saturn is currently, I believe, at 1 degree of Aries. We're all sitting on the watermelon and rice cakes. That sounds delicious. That stationing on the world axis 0 degree, what are we co-creating? And then let's also think about, throw in there Christopher Witecki's number system, because 0, 1, and 2 degrees are very powerful. 0 is that boundary, that Plutonian boundary of being aware of what is toxic and not necessarily having healthy boundaries. Healthy boundaries are not about pushing on somebody. It's about, I know this person rubs up against me. I wonder if I'm going to respond to their text. Am I going to jump up and do something that is expected of me? So as Saturn goes through that, Saturn walks back through, Neptune walks back through that, and my brain. That 0 degree of Aries, there's a word for it. My brain just can't connect to the word right now. We're going to be poked at. Okay. Thank you, DJ. Thank you so much. All right, my words, my brain. All right, here we go. Everything's happening weird. It's so funny. This week, when I look at the stars, sometimes I'm literally blown away by how the stars suddenly affect. Lucky is a food hound. Okay. He's ready to eat 24/7. Well, I got a new thing of treats this last week, about a week ago. He got a whiff of those because I got lungs and hearts, whatever and now he's going back into old habits where he snubs his breakfast and wants to go straight to the treats. And I'm just like, how did the stars literally, start to move in a direction and it plays out here on Earth? How far away are these stars? It really is sort of crazy when you think about it. All right. So I have to be mean mommy again, where he has to starve all day long. And he looks at me with his big, sad dog eyes, like he's a homeless dog that nobody cares about. All right. All right, here we go. How are you feeling, Small? Are you feeling good this week? Any chance you used anything this week that you might have enjoyed a little bit? I don't know. A little subtle hint there. All right, here we go. We're going to talk to our solar return. Happy solar return, Cancer. It's your birthday week. If you're born this week and your sun is shining bright as these outer planets are having new conversations, I want to offer this because the solar return is like this, your own personal new year, right? Your own personal opportunity to be like, what do I want for myself? Where am I going and driving the bus of my own life? With Jupiter transiting through your first house, I get it. Cancer, I want to offer it this way because the early born Cancers and late born Cancers are feeling the squares to the Aries energy. And it feels like the cardinal signs on some level, the extremes of them have been pummeled the last couple of years with, looking at life from a deeper, more authentic place. And when I say that, it's not about authenticity to what somebody else wants. It's lifting that layer and coming underneath. What do I know what I need for myself? And if I support that and if I nurture that, will it actually show love and honoring of others? Because it does. All right. So your declaration of independence this week, your willingness to stretch yourself past what is expected. One of the little challenges with Cancer, and I say this ever so lovingly, especially Cancer women, tend to give what they want to others, but they don't tell the other person, this is how you can love me. And that's where I think it gets a little wonky because I feel like it's important for the Cancer energy to not only give, but also to receive. And then also to recognize that not everybody likes to be loved the same way. So sometimes when you give what you want, the other person doesn't want that kind of love. Like, for instance, I'm not a big hugger, okay? And I'm super sensitive to smells. So when somebody wears a strong perfume and then they hug me, I have a negative reaction. Now, I'm saying this lovingly. Cancer gets to pay attention to how they love others and then kind of adjust so that they can receive more love back. I hope that makes sense. Because I think what I'm trying to say with the Cancer is that sometimes when you're nurturing other people, the boundary of who you are and what you want gets lost in the boundary of how you perceive others and what they want. And inadvertently, nobody's getting what they want. So what do you really need in the way of love? And how can you express that? Let's see what Spirit has to say on your solar return. There's the Four of Swords, which is a time of rest after battle, a time of communion, a time of protection. The Knight of Swords is interesting. The Queen of Swords, wow. And the Seven of Pentacles. So for my Cancers, this is how I would interpret this. There is a good possibility that up until now, the extreme signs, I'm talking about the beginning and the ends, have been feeling very weary from the transits that have been going on. I'm not negating the middle Cancers in any way, but this is an alert that the war is over. You can rest. You're being protected. Bounty is there. But it's also a time to be aware of the balance of your thoughts. The Knight can be very impatient. The Knight of Swords can want to move on in a way too quickly, and I mean quickly in the way of, I just want to get past this. And this is where I'm going with the Cancers, because I started this talking about an exchange of energy, and sometimes Cancer gives what they want to get, without recognizing what the other party needs, the subtle nuances of what they need in love. Because here is partnership and there's fairness and balance. And sometimes we're moving too quickly. Okay. So now this is the time, and maybe this week is to assess your relationships with other people and and not just coming from your heart, but also relaxing. Maybe it's even about receiving a little bit, you know? When I look at this spread for Cancer, I almost wonder if the solar return message for my Cancers is you can be at rest. You can trust that what you need in the way of mutual exchange of energy will be there for you. And now is a time to sort of reassess the balance of your thoughts. Have you been so anxious to get to a place of what looks like physical comfort that you're not recognizing that the comfort comes from the mental body that then acts out in the physical? Because this is literally a time to rest because you've built something. And you may just have a sense of malcontent about it, or a sense of it's not enough. I'm going to do a little clarification card. Oh, there's the Two of Swords. This is very interesting. This is a Libra energy. So I think for my Cancers, I want to offer that when it comes to the things you've been building, especially the relationships you've been building with others, this is a time to pull back, connect with spirit, reconnect with what really brings you a sense of feeling fulfilled, feeling expansion. Remember, Jupiter's going through your first house. It's not just going to expand your sense of self. It's going to start to give you, you're going to start pondering new ideas, new philosophies, new ways of looking at things, new ways of maybe even new desires. You might find yourself, as a result of the square to the Aries energy of Chiron and of Saturn and Neptune retrograding, that much of what you wanted when you were younger is not what you want now. And it doesn't mean that it's any less exciting or it's any less stimulating. It just feels seasoned desires. And now it's time to make a decision to play to those seasoned desires. Okay, let's move on to our Leos. Rising moon, sun, and stelliums. You have Mercury going through your first house, and it's going to retrograde. So Mercury is going to start to station later this week. It's going to retrograde on the 17th until August 11th. It's going to bring thoughts back to, relationships, high school romance is a time when things were more gentle, or appeared to be more gentle, or appeared to be more hopeful. Oh, that's beautiful. The Sun and Mercury in Leo. That makes you a very fun person, I think. Here we go. This is for our Leos, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. Now, the other thing that, we know Pluto is opposing your your seventh house. And Aries is your ninth house. So this is very much, there could be a lot of revisiting of how your relationships foster your sense of self, that brings a sense of peace, a sense of balance, a sense of harmony, that allows you literally more expansion. And when I say expansion, I mean like almost, I want to say to put yourself on the stage of your own life, but that doesn't mean you're putting yourself on the stage of other people's judgment of your life. It's like, you know what? I've always wanted to blah, blah, blah. And other people are like, oh, I don't know, that's really hard, or blah, blah, blah. I just feel like there's this moment where almost each one of the signs that have been standing in awareness, because they're either being squared or opposed by these outer planets, even trining it, there's a sense of moving like a pioneer into a new vibration of the self. and what I want. And I don't think that you can base tomorrow on yesterday. Like there's things that are going to become available to us that we would not have imagined. And that's why I feel like when I go up into that ninth house for Leo and I look at that Aries energy, I'm feeling like I don't think you can imagine how it will play out, because the expansion is beyond our comprehension right now. Okay, so here we go, Leo. We have the Magician. That's beautiful. We have the Lovers. I'm sorry, not the Lovers, the Two of Cups. The Chariot and the King of Pentacles. Oh, this is very nice. You know, the Magician is very much as above, so below, which means what you focus on is what you create. You have all the tools, you have everything that you desire. Now it's about focusing. Now, this is an exchange of energy. Now, it could be about other people, but it could also be about two sides of yourself. One that believes in the possibilities of what you can create and what you want, and the part of you that says, oh, I don't know, you know, I have never experienced that up until now, because the Chariot is some sort of fight. Literally a victorious fight, but it's a fight between the dark side and the light side. Will I give wings to fly, or will I tether myself to something? And the thing about the Chariot is that the Chariot's greatest power comes from its emotional body. It rules the sign of Cancer. The armor is the moon's. So when the Leo energy recognizes the power of their leadership, the power of their thoughts, then you start to materialize in the physical world. You know, the thing about Pluto is that Pluto is a little jarring, okay? First thing it's going to do is remove the weeds. It's going to, you know, rip up the soil that's dry and clumpy, and it's going to want to bring in nutrients, and then it's going to grow something very, very strong. When Pluto rips up your life, when Pluto literally creates a death of some kind, that is so traumatic and so jarring that it changes you permanently. Now, let's take an example of how this plays out in a good way, because Gwen Stefani had a Pluto square when her marriage blew up, okay? Then she went into uncharted territories for herself at that chapter in her life. She went on a reality show. She met Blake Shelton, someone she didn't even hear. She didn't even know he existed on the planet. And now her life is forever changed in a way that is solid, that is fruitful, that is complete for her. This is what's going on for you, Leo. Somewhere, whatever's happening in your seventh house is not necessarily about partnerships. Pardon me. I mean, it is about physical partnerships, but not exclusively. It's about the partnership you have with your harmony, with your balance, with your equilibrium, as you recognize that balance doesn't sit static like this. It's like this. And then you claim through your mind, through your intentions, through your willingness to see the wobble of your thoughts, and then keep pulling into the lane that you want to experience. And then bounty comes in a big ass way. King of Pentacles is not messing around. He's bringing it into the material. It's going from the imaginary, from the conceptual, into the physical. And that's how you represent true leadership as a Leo, and following your heart and being courageous. Now, Mercury is probably going to bring up a lot of ideas and things as it retrogrades in your first house. Or you could be revisiting old ideas and fine-tuning them. All right, here we go. Good morning, Amy. I don't think I see you there. All right, here we go. On to our Virgos, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. And I want to offer this because, you know, recently YouTube has started, grading your comments, number 1, number 2, number 3. This is all part of the structural changes that are happening. As we recognize that these are false statistics, you don't have to be number 1 in the comments, and then we choose. I feel like there's a weird Saturnian play right now. I even see it on my little design app, where there's these competitions that literally are actually the underbelly is the more you compete, the more money you pay. The more money you pay, the more they profit, and you don't recognize it because your ego wants to be number one in a virtual world where you don't have an even exchange of energy. That's what's going to come up over, recognizing these weird falsehoods. Okay. Virgo, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. Mars is running through your first house. Now, there's something good about Mars in the first house. The first house of Virgo. I think it's good for health procedures because I think it brings precision, attention to detail. It also can be on the flip side, super critical and argumentative in a way that is really condescending. Everything has its, light and dark shadows. How do we play with them? All right, here we go. Virgo. The 9 of Swords. Worry, worry, worry. The Magician. As above, so below. You have the power. The Queen of Cups. You're not checking into your intuitive body. All righty. And finally, the 6 of Wands. Victory. This is what I love. Without the challenges, sometimes the victory is sort of dumbed down. So here is the 9 of Swords. This is actually Virgo in its most challenging energy because it's just running the scenarios that don't serve you. Now there's this recognition that you're not listening to your emotional, intuitive body. I always tell my clients that when they start to worry about something they want, I ask them, what does their soul tell them? Now, it's funny because oftentimes you'll watch them go through their ego. I don't know. And yet when you push past the I don't know, you'll find the true yes or the no in what you're contemplating, because this is a victory. The 6 of Wands is a victory over you've been through the wars, and now you're being celebrated as you come back into community. I think this is about Virgo personally, recognizing the worry. We see in this particular card behind the swords, there's a white little moth, and it could be in the web, but then again, it could be liberating itself from the web. One of the things you'll see in every tarot deck, the 9 of Swords, is somehow covering the eyes. I can't see. I'm so entrenched that there is almost an impossibility to move into a higher vibration. This is Mars. This is Mars, running those scenarios of anger, resentment, where it doesn't work. This is where the challenge comes. And this is the victory over it. And the victory comes from just recognition. Oh, there's the loop again. There's that part of me that was hardwired to contemplate this. And now I have opportunities to supersede that because this is the strongest card in that spread. Mercury. As above, so below. I have all the skill I need. I have all the tools I need. Now it's about using those tools and practicing them. And the practice of them is about, oh, there's that thought. Boom. Okay, now what's the other possibility? It's never, ever going to be a full, easy highway to manifestation. There's always going to be a process of contemplation, contrast, of potential. This could happen, that could happen, blah, 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 blah. How far will you go back and forth? I think, J-Dog, I agree with you that the chat should just be, like it used to be. It should just be a conversation. But I also think that this is an opportunity for us to recognize where the system plays to our ego and to our sense of self. I must be number one, or I must be high. This is what I'm going through with the channel. Is what I'm going through is I'm recognizing that for years I've been chasing my ego, trying to be important on YouTube. And now I don't care if I'm important on YouTube. I just want to be, I want to leave the world better than the way I found it. but I can sort of start to recognize where my ego thinks I've got to do big things to make that happen. And maybe it's not about a big thing at all. Maybe it's about one sentence I said at some point that changes or brings an awareness to another person who then sends the ripple effect. So what I'm walking through right now is recognizing where I'm being triggered by numbers, this and that, even on my stupid design app, which I like. I really do like it. And yet I see these false competitions because I keep winning competitions I don't get any recognition for. Like, you're a rising star. And I'm like, well, why aren't I on the page that says, ooh, you're a rising star? Because it's an ego thing. And all they're doing is getting my money every day, $20 a day as I buy more diamonds. Oh, my goodness. All right, here we go. We're on to our Libras, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. Good morning, MK. Here we go. Did I say thank you to DJ or whoever? Did somebody put some? I should have said thank you, I think, to somebody. All right, Libra, here we go. There's the Queen of Cups. The Eight of Cups, interesting. The Six of Swords. And the Knight of Pentacles. This is so interesting, being a Libra sun myself. The Queen of Cups is really, how do I fill my cup? What is important for me? The queens are always emotional. They're always the nurturing energy. When we're looking at the Queen of Cups, we're clearly seeing water on water. We're seeing emotion on emotion. We're seeing intuition on intuition. The Eight of Cups is a spiritual card of moving away from something that is not balanced or something that does not align to a deeper truth. The Six of Swords and the Angel's advice is bringing smoother waters. As you become more aware, Libra is an interesting sign because it represents balance, and everybody goes to the partnership. Everybody who has strong, if you have a strong Leo energy, you must be married, you must be coupled up somehow. I don't know if that's always true. What I think the most important energy of Libra is being aware of a sense of balance, understanding the ebb and flow of dark and light, understanding what justice truly means. Because if we think about justice, is it an eye for an eye, or is justice truly the co-creation? So if somebody brings up a challenge in our lives and we are the co-creators of that, is that challenge meant to pull us under, or is that challenge meant to hone our skills mentally, physically, emotionally, or spiritually? Because the Eight of Cups is literally looking at things from a more spiritual point of view. How does this challenge, how does the cup falling over take me into smoother waters where I feel a sense of my destiny and I can relax? Because the Knight of Pentacles is the hero of the Virgo energy. Virgo meaning the Knight of Pentacles, if you're looking at a zodiac sign, is Virgo. Virgo rules our mental process. It rules where we're enslaved. It rules our daily activities and our daily health. The Queen of Cups is talking about being more aware of my intuitive body, of my emotional body, and what my emotional body needs. And this is not about blaming or pointing to others, but rather finding the spiritual vein of, if I've experienced discomfort, that only hones in what makes me feel more comfortable. And now it's my job to implement that in my everyday life and to make it physical, make it here. I hope that made sense. When I say make it here, I mean like I'm claiming it in my physical space. In this deck, I often see dragonflies when it comes to the pentacles. It's usually in the background. You see a lot of crystals. The dragonflies are a 2-year process of going from the nymph to the dragonfly. So this could, and now we're looking at Saturn retrograding back into Pisces. That was a 2-year process. So there could very well be something for my Libras where this has to do with revisiting this last 2-year process and how you have been implementing Saturn's energy in your Pisces house. which is transformation. Pisces, hold on. Libra, Aries. Pisces is your 6th house. Sorry, work again. All right, on to our Scorpios, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. Okay. All right, here we go. All right, Scorpio. We have the Queen of Pentacles reversed. We have the Eight of Wands reversed. We have the Magician again. Interesting. And the Six of Cups reversed. Okay, so I just said queens all have to do with emotion, right? They're always nurturing. There's always this, intuitiveness beneath it. And then we add the pentacle, the earth side. Now we have Scorpio is not using their intuition somehow. With this reversed, Scorpio is sort of topsy-turvy is the way I would put it. All right, so Scorpio is ruled by Pluto and Mars. And for some reason, I'm going to Mars in Virgo, and I'm feeling like that Queen of Pentacles is playing to that ancient ruler somehow. Because the Eight of Wands upside down would indicate something is continuing on. Something is not concluding. The information isn't coming through. And Scorpio sometimes can inadvertently take themselves mentally down a road that has more to do with their history and where they've been than the future. Because this Queen of Pentacles is saying something is not grounded. Something emotionally is not grounded. There's some sort of awareness. Now we have this Eight of Wands. I feel like this is, I can't come to a conclusion. Now the Magician is saying, Scorpio, harness your thoughts. Scorpio, look at the tools that you have to be powerful in your own life, because you're missing it somehow. This is the Six of Cups is a card of nostalgia. It's a card of childhood. It's a card of history. And if I was reading this spread, which apparently I am, I would say that right now my Scorpios are ignoring their history of manifestation. They're not paying attention to how powerful they are, that somehow something's happening that is throwing them off kilter, that is making them not recognize the beauty of something, the beauty of their, I don't need to pull a clarification card. There we go. Okay. I got the Five of Swords. This is a challenging energy because when you win, you lose. And it's a card of contempt. Now, Scorpio, to me, is the most intuitive sign of the zodiac. I've said this many times. And they're not intuitive because it's magic. They're intuitive because they're suspicious, because they rule criminals, because they rule the dark side. So they're aware of everything. And in that awareness, it is now tasked to you to come to this energy with, great broad thought. Here, it looks like potentially you may have inadvertently used your intuition or been aware of something in a way where you've won, but you've lost. Okay. Somewhere, or potentially this week, something is going to continue on, and you're going to be tasked to be aware of the power of your words, the power of your thoughts, the power of how they manifest or hit on other people, because you could win an argument, but you may not win the war, or you may not get the satisfaction you want, because if you come across two I told you so, or I knew this anyway, it could be a little challenging. Now let's look at this. Now let's bring this into the mix. Pluto is making squares and oppositions or conjunctions to the fixed signs. Technically, Pluto, your ruling planet, is squaring you. As it squares the early degrees of Scorpio, there's an awareness of false attachments because of that, Shapley attractor. So here you could very well, Scorpio, become aware that, it's time for you to see the power of your mind, to the ripple effect of how you are in a situation and what outcome you really want. Because if you want to be acknowledged for the win, you might have to be a little more aware of how you go about the win. That's all I'm saying. Not easy, but not every week gets to be fun. And we're going into a Mercury retrograde. We're going into a Saturn is about to retrograde. Neptune's retrograding. Pluto's retrograding. Uranus is going to go into Gemini. There you go. That's probably where we're looking at that magician so much, because it could bring unexpected conversations, awarenesses, epiphanies. I think a lot of those epiphanies are going to be on the inside. I think a lot of people that have been standing in awareness are going to start to recognize the imbalance in other people. And rather than trying to argue them out of it, they're just going to mentally or emotionally step aside and kind of check out. All right, let's go to Sagittarius, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. All right, here we go, Sagittarius. We have the Prince of Wands reversed. We have the Lovers. We have the Empress. Oh, that's nice. And then we have the Queen of Pentacles reversed. Okay. I want to offer this because if for some reason Sagittarius is lacking inspiration, lacking of the fire to move forward, this is a temporary situation, and I want to offer it a moment of just sort of chillax. Because when the Prince of Wands shows up, either there's a delay in a message, there's a delay in passion, there's a delay in movement forward. Now, here's the Lover's card, which is a major arcana card. It's about choice. The Empress is really very much the Venusian energy. So there we're looking at Mercury in the form of the Lovers, making a choice. And then Venus, the choice that best supports what I want to feel in a sense of abundance. And if for some reason we're looking at literally material opportunities to make money, to have material security, to feel a sense of flow, then it's very much about aligning. This Queen of Pentacles is a moneymaker. She's Capricorn, technically. Now, when she's reversed, she's there's something in the structure that's off. And potentially for my Sagittarius, you could be feeling just a little bit burnt out. When we think about the nodes are squaring you, we're starting to feel Neptune and Saturn squaring the mutable signs as they move back into Pisces, or at least those early degrees of Aries. So you could inadvertently be feeling, I should be moving this story forward. I should be moving this story forward. Take a minute to think about the platform with which you're trying to move the story forward. Because if it's based on, I better do this or I will not have resources, there's a wobble there. Okay. I'm also going to pull a clarification card because the Queen of Pentacles is a money-making card. News will come soon. If you've been waiting for news of some kind, if you've been waiting for an inspiration, if you've been waiting for, I don't know, I kind of feel like a lot of us have been lacking a little inspiration lately, like that. Oh, I'm so excited to film this video. Something's going to move forward. You're going to get your information. I think everybody's tired and poopy, to be honest, Small. I think everybody's just exhausted these transits are emotionally taxing, even if we don't know it, you know? And I do think they're bringing up a lot of our history. Having Mike's pictures up and having pictures up of us in high school as a couple has made me look at that girl and think about the 50 years since that, that time, and the hopes and dreams that that girl had, and the hopes and the dreams that I have today. And they're vastly different. And, I would say that the girl that was 15 or 16 had dreams this big, and the woman now maybe has dreams this big. And I don't know if that's such a good thing. I feel like we're struggling to open our worlds up, because when we're looking at the structure around us, it feels so, I don't know. It just feels like the road feels very foggy. Are you ready, Capricorn? Rising moon, sun, and stelliums. Here we go. There's the Knight of Swords. There's the Ace of Swords. There's that Queen of Pentacles, but this time she's upright. And the Six of Cups. Well, this is good for our Capricorns. The Knight of Swords is always moving quickly. Action, action, action. I want to get to where I'm going. Now, Capricorn by nature does not move quickly. It almost feels like I want to get over something. When I look at this and I look at that Knight of Swords, he's running out of the spread. And I feel like this potentially, again, because we've got Saturn stationing to retrograde, we have Uranus at that anaretic degree of Taurus, which I think is very much bringing our personal histories into play. And depending upon what house it is, whatever sign you are, for me, it's really my first house. There's this feeling of myself versus my value. And so here, for my Capricorns, I feel like don't be too harsh on yourself. Don't be too harsh on where you've been, because there's new ideas coming. There's new thoughts. Pluto has done a lot to you in rewriting you. And now there's the potential with Pluto in your second house that you can start to really feel yourself rebuilding. And this time rebuilding from a place that actually supports you in a more, when we look at the Six of Cups, it's our history. It's our childhood history. It's nostalgia. But here, when I look at this for Capricorn, I've been feeling as if Capricorn was starting to shed the skin of that duty and responsibility, starting to reframe. If I'm dutiful to another person without discerning if I'm creating a win-win, will I really be of leadership and of service and of support? So I feel like there's a release of your childhood. There's a release of an old story that's held you back. And now an opportunity for you to move forward with more awareness of what you're building. And I think Saturn's retrograde into your, literally, we think about Saturn ruling you, Saturn ruling Capricorn. Now Saturn is going to retrograde back into Pisces and revisit that spiritual connection in what you've been building. And this is where I'm saying it's not the spiritual connection with God outside of yourself. It's that spiritual voice within yourself that says there are possibilities, that you're not trapped to what you have known up until now, that there are golden apples to be harvested. But part of it is you being willing to move towards something that feels more joyous, more innocent, more childlike, more triumphant. All right, onward and upward. Here we go to our Aquarius's rising moon, sun, and stelliums. I find doing chores to be very therapeutic for me. Well, I don't always like to do them. There's something about a clean house that makes me feel like when my house is clean, my mind is clean. When I don't know what to do with myself, that's what I do. I clean, do laundry, wipe down the mirrors, clean the glass, the windows. All right, Aquarius. Take a quick sip of my juice. I must tell you, I feel like I'm wearing cement boots every day. Good morning, Venus. Here we go. Aquarius. Ooh, we got the Devil card. We got the Queen of Swords. We got the Knight of Wands. And the Lovers. All right. You know, Pluto's going through your first house, literally. You're like an embryo, okay? Starting to recognize where you've been held captive by rules and regulations that no longer serve you. Aquarius is co-ruled by Saturn. Saturn, again, is about to retrograde starting next Sunday. So we're in that stationing period of time, and we're at that very early degrees of Aries. We're revisiting, what do I want, not just for myself, but when we look at the Aries energy, we're looking at the hero, okay? We're looking at the person or the soul that's willing to go in a fire to save someone else. Well, we're going into a fire right now. By claiming our own lives, we're going into the fire of old structure that says, no, you're supposed to live your life for somebody else. You're supposed to make your teachers happy and your parents happy and your bosses happy and, you know, the guy at the market happy, whoever. It's never really about you. But no, it is about you, because here comes the justice. Here comes the justice of balance and harmony when it comes. Now, the Knight of Wands, this very much feels like that fire energy. This is that hero energy. And we're talking about Capricorn claiming themselves through a more passionate, more, as I serve the passions of my life, I'm actually being a greater leader to other people, because this is about choice. And I don't think it's about lovers. I don't think it's about partnerships. I think it's about the choices of thought. I think it's about noticing where I've been entrapped. I think it's about an exchange of energy. And as I say this, literally fire alarms are going off behind me. Pisces is never last here. We always start with the birthday month Venus and work our way around the zodiac. So I'm on Aquarius. Pisces is going to be next. For my Aquariuses, Pluto is going through your first house, breaking up whatever restriction, whatever obligation, wherever Saturn has held you captive and not allowed you to feel the expansion that you want. You know, that when we look at that, okay, Uranus rules Aquarius. Uranus is about this coming week to move into Gemini, while Saturn, the co-ruler of Aquarius, is moving back through Aries and into Pisces. This is going to be a really big time for like mental epiphanies, mental awarenesses, self-talk, reevaluation. I've never been this. I don't get that. My luck is bad. All of that is a co-contributor to the devil within, okay, to the restriction within. So as we become more aware of Archangel Gabriel's loving hand, the peace comes through our exchange with our soul to tell a new story. And that's what you're going to be tasked with. And when you're a fixed sign, sometimes it's hard to tell that story again. So it's hard to tell it when you're, you know, it's hard to tell a new story when the human experience supports the old story. All right, here we go. On to our Pisces rising moon, sun, and stelliums. I want to encourage you all to look at your charts in Placidus. If you are a late degree rising sign, it's going to push that first house, and it's going to make that first house more 12th house energy. And that's super important to understand how you project your light into, or project your sense of self out into the world. So Pisces, between the North Node, Neptune obviously traveling through your first house for the last 14, 15 years, and then Saturn the last two, you've really been, you know, becoming more and more aware of where Neptune has had you either ascend into your creativity, your imagination, your connection to spirit, or where you've escaped into, being absorbed into your environment, absorbed into the dynamics around you. And now, as we revisit that, there's a claiming. And that claiming doesn't necessarily come from claiming it to another human being. It's claiming it from the inside out. It's like through affirmations. All right, here we go. Pisces, the Fool, a new adventure. Absolutely, trusting the heart. Knight of Swords, being aware of thoughts. And Six of Cups, wow. We just had this with Aquarius with a slightly different hue to it. All right, this is beautiful. So as my Pisces become aware that they take that emotional journey, their power really comes from looking ahead, looking to the stars, trusting their intuitive, that big moon, I see the power. When I look at this character, we see the white representing purity. We see the yellow representing the power. And then we see the black of the boots, and having to walk sometimes a dark path in order to illuminate our power and to start to rewrite the history that the crocodile represents. And if we look at this, we see that the stars reflect into the water of our history. Those stars would be the idea that we have put obstacles in our path on purpose so that we could walk through them to feel our power. Right now, this Knight of Swords is the opportunity that is running out of the spread to start to look at your history with more discerning eyes, meaning this: was my history here to pull me under? Or was my history here to define me more clearly so that I could extract the rewards of this earth plane? The Fool is the very beginning of the major arcana, and the World is the very last card. Somewhere Pisces is going through an experience where the Fool, the zero, is now playing to the Pluto energy of healthy boundaries with things that are toxic, things that permeate your being that no longer serve you, and now allowing yourself to garnish the reward of everything that you have become aware of. This is actually really positive and very uplifting, but it's also on some level challenging because you're going to have to individualize yourself even more. And that individualization is not about telling someone else, hey, I have my own opinions. It's about you looking at you in the mirror and saying, my opinions matter and I believe them, or my beliefs matter and I stand by them. This is really lovely. The World card is where the Fool has come to understand the restrictions of the earthly plane, and it works for them. All right, here we go. On to our Aries, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. I want to give it a good shuffle. You're welcome, Venus. The thing about the name Venus is it's really not about beauty. It's about receiving. It's the ultimate co-creator. So when you think about, your name, whether it's your handle on YouTube or it's your actual God-given name, it's about, am I open to receiving the bounty? And as I allow myself to receive it, do I see my expansion? Because sometimes Venus can be interpreted as the partner who always has to give to the other person. But from my perspective and what Spirit has shown me is the more we open up to receive as a spiritual being having a human experience, the more we are able to open up to others' reception so that we don't have to fill their cup. They watch our cup overflow and they allow for their own overflowing. All right, here we go. On to our Aries, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. We have the Fool again. Nice. We have the Ace of Pentacles. We have the Ace of Wands, new beginnings, of course. And I think it's so interesting that Neptune and Saturn are at the 0 degree of Aries, the ultimate co-creation. And the 10 of Swords. God bless. We're going to have to do a little clarification card on that one. Oof. Well, my Aries friends, this is a week, I'll tell you. Something's going to come up that has to do maybe a little bit with your history or something that's been going on. There's potential that a 2-year cycle is being revisited. And within that revisiting, there is a new beginning being offered. But part of that new beginning is your awareness of your own energy. The thing about Aries is it rules resentment, it rules anger, and therefore war. You done me wrong, and I'm going to take it out on you. I'm going to make you pay. I am the dispenser of justice, but you're not. Meaning the justice doesn't come from looking outwardly, it looks inwardly. How is co-creating this situation somehow? Because I need to pull another clarification card. This 10 and 9 of Swords is very challenging, no doubt. It's drama, it's worry. I don't need any of that nonsense. I'm the King of Cups. All right. This week, as we revisit some of these things, we look at the idea that if we just go with the whole sign idea, Virgo, Aries, Mars, your ruling planet, is in Virgo. Virgo rules your everyday activities, it rules process, it rules your health. I really think that you get to be aware this week of how much you're sitting in an energy of the old story, what's been dramatic, what's been sad, what's been worrisome. And if you want to give new life to something, literally, it's a focus into new directions. I also want to say this too, because that King of Cups could actually be a human being who wants to come into your experience, who's offering their cup, and you could potentially be very distrusting of the situation. I think you got to give it a little time. Okay, just call me C. This is exactly what I'm talking about. There's like a weird feeling of revisiting something that intuitively I need to self-care, or I need to start to look at it through new eyes, as if it's distasteful, then, for instance, if I have challenging relationships with my DNA, and while there are times that I wish I had the big loving family that is purported on Instagram, it's not the experience I had or how I'm received, because this here is seriously like, you got to go on a new adventure. You got to look to new beginnings in the material world, new inspirations. Something from the old is going to get triggered. Saturn retrograding in your first house at the 0 degree. There is a sense of worry, and your intuition could be off. Literally, you could feel like, oh God, here I am revisiting this old feeling. And I feel like it's an opportunity to look at it. Am I going to process it the same way I did, or am I going to look at it differently? I've had some outward challenges that have literally thrown me off. Like recently I had to go to a city council meeting, and there was someone there I wasn't expecting. And when I saw them, I saw the enemy, okay? Because this person had been lied to me tremendously. That whole situation triggered me into an old way of thinking, an old way of feeling. And while I didn't conquer it well in the moment, in hindsight, I recognized that person offered me an opportunity to look at them for who they really are and not to be affected. So, is she passed on, Venus? Because there's something going on here where self-care is going to be required, and trusting that, for my Aries, it's time to recalibrate your worth and your value based on the future, not the past. I'm sorry to hear that, Venus. I know it's very difficult sometimes. There's a lot of very, the Pluto energy is very crazy right now. All right, so Aries, overall, there's an opportunity for new beginnings, but part of it is you allowing the past to be in the past. The more that you look at the past, and even though you're justified, you're not going to get what you want. So reframe it, turn it into the thing that sharpens the blade. All right, here we go. On to our Taurus, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. Relationships are so precarious these days. Oh, Venus. So this is a recent loss. I'm very sorry. Was that a crime of passion? It almost feels as if, as I don't mean to tune in, but I read the story. I almost feel like the relationship was very dramatic, yes, but there was not true intention. It was like it happened. Something got out of control. Like an argument got out of control or a situation escalated. It wasn't like they planned it. Some people plan, they go get a device to exterminate their partner. It was kind of spontaneous. It was like a fight gone awry. And I'm also getting the feeling of like, is there a hit to the head? Venus, did the girl get hit? Like, did she fall and hit her head, like in a way, like on a step or on a piece of cement? Or I'm getting something about the head. My head is starting to feel like I went. All right, let me focus in on Taurus. Sometimes when I start thinking about things, I start getting images. Oh, but she must have hit her head during that, because if they were going 100 miles an hour, there's no way she didn't hit her head somehow. I don't know if she was conscious. I feel like I definitely feel like my head, there's something going on. There's no way that if she was in the passenger seat, that she didn't crawl into the passenger seat. He's lucky to be alive, actually. All right, here we go. On to our Taurus, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. There's the Queen of Swords. Boy, she showed up a lot today, hasn't she? There's the Seven of Cups inverted. There's the Six of Cups. That's shown up quite a bit today as well. J-Dog, I love you. You're so protective. All right, and the Prince of Wands upside down. For my Tauruses, the Queen of Swords is always about balance. She's always about fairness. She's always about some sort of justice and diplomacy. I really think that what's going on here is there is this, like, Uranus has been going through your first house for a while. And while right now it's at the very, the anaretic degree before it moves into your second house of Gemini, there's an interesting feeling of coming into some sort of awareness. But I need to pull a clarification card on that Prince of Wands, because it's like an awareness, but I'm not ready to move on it. Yes. Okay. So the Queen of Swords is like, oh, okay, I get there's a history, there's some sort of emotional clarity from your childhood, from some history that you've had. That's what Taurus rules, your personal family history. And it could potentially be that the reconciliation you'd like or what you want to happen is just, you're not going to get any teamwork from it. Okay, I don't want to be mean, or hurt people's feelings, but sometimes when we incarnate into families, it's not the kumbaya we want it to be. It's actually the shit show that we never wanted. Because the Prince of Wands and the Three of Cups being upside down tells me that there's a pause coming. There isn't celebration coming yet. There isn't the wisdom. There isn't the spark of idea that something's got to percolate. Something's got to kind of sit back a little bit and just lie in the air, kind of like, because this Three of Cups is like, I haven't garnished the wisdom. I haven't figured it out yet. I'm not in balance with it just yet, but it's coming. I need to pull one more clarification card. There's the Justice card. That's perfect because that just aligns with the Queen of Swords. So this is what I want to say. For my Tauruses, something's going to come up with your history as a child. Something emotional that was not clear, was not talked about, was hidden underneath the surface is going to come into your awareness, but not in your awareness in a big way. It's going to come into your awareness in a way that feels unsettled. But at the same time, the unsettledness will bring a sense of justice. It's like you're looking, you're going, okay, I'm going to say this straight out. I could try to put an olive branch out to my sister all day long. I could go buy a whole grove of olive trees, and this woman is never, ever going to be nice to me. She's never going to see the best in me. She's always going to stab me in the back whenever she can, and I'm an idiot if I think otherwise. That's somehow what's coming with the Taurus. Somehow the Prince of Wands, you're going to recognize that somebody's not going to be cooperative, no matter how much you try to instill cooperation, happiness, passion, and you're going to walk away. Or you're going to mentally walk away. So if, like J-Dog, I can't live in the past. So you may show up around people from your past, but you won't live there anymore. You'll move on. You'll extract the wisdom from it by recognizing that you either can or can, it takes two to create balance. If you sit on a seesaw by yourself, you're just sitting on the ground. So if someone won't work with you, you got to get on a new seesaw. All right, here's our final sign, Gemini. Well, I want to offer this. My sister has a Taurus moon, as does everyone in my immediate family. And she's at 0 degrees of Taurus. So technically, she's feeling Pluto's square. We don't recognize that sometimes because, we go to we just kind of, because Pluto's squaring that, it's going back and forth, back and forth. And then if we think about Aries is the 12th house for Taurus. So there's karmic history. Could be karmic history of anger, karmic history of resentment, karmic history of being warriors, So, I think it's all a learning experience, but I think it's all an awareness experience. It's like the learning from a soul's perspective isn't necessary. It's like, well, I agree with that. The beatings will continue till the morale improves, but the morale is really like, I'm not going to let you beat me anymore. I'm not going to accept your version of me. And whether you're beating me physically, emotionally, spiritually, or otherwise, it's an interior revolution. It's not there could be exterior revolutions as well, but most of it's interior for us. All right, here we go. Final sign, Gemini. And this is big because when Uranus is moving into your first house, if you think about it, Taurus has been breaking up your history. Somehow Uranus going through your 12th house has been bringing awarenesses, epiphanies, lightning strikes, potential genius to your talents, your skills. And now it's all about you. And when Uranus moved through my first house, I started to be Teri, which was really lovely because I'm really glad that I'm running my own ship instead of chasing somebody else. All right, here we go. There's the Five of Cups. The sorrow is lifting, Gemini. The Six of Wands is upside down. The Justice card is upside down. And the Magician. All right. Now, this is interesting. I must turn the deck upside down, but I want to offer this. Five of Cups is a cup of sorrow. It's a divorce card. It's not paying attention to what is remaining and only focusing in on what is lost. Very much so, the victory lies not in things being balanced, but you being aware of your thought process. The Magician is the Magician and the Justice card are the strongest cards, but the Magician is the strongest because it's in the outcome card. And it's saying that you have the power to shift your experience, but part of it is acknowledging that while you could go, because this is muted. This is not as bad. If it was like this, it would be more challenging. So now it's about paying attention to the two cups with the butterflies that are offering you some sort of power and transformation. The victory comes from not the balance, but from your awareness of the imbalance of your thoughts. When we're focused on what doesn't work, it continues not to work. I'm going to give you a quick example. When I was going through, April and May were really, really challenging months for me. My work went down and all my statistics had big red marks with arrows going like this, reminding me that I wasn't working hard enough. I wasn't doing anything. And yet I knew I had to attend to what was going on. I had to tend to what was feeling like it was causing me challenges. And then when that cycle not ended, but sort of ended, things came back. I recognized what was going on in my emotional body that was then trickling into my physical experience. Because for my Geminis, it's time to be aware of your thoughts. It's time to be aware of how much your thoughts are supporting an experience you don't want to have anymore. And no matter what you do, you'll always have those thoughts. So it's not about eliminating them or releasing them. It's about, does that thought serve me, and having the discernment each and every time. And empaths are very much attracted to narcissists because narcissists appear to know what they're doing. They appear to have a strong sense of self where the empath doesn't. So this is, again, where it becomes a co-creation. There is no victim and there is no victor. Here, there's just an opportunity for balance. I'm going to do one more for my Geminis. I want to see where we're headed. The Fool. We have a new adventure coming from a sense of awareness and your connection to the awareness is your connection to the old story. How often do I tell the old story that mutes, dumbs down, or squeezes and pinches the road to the future? Exactly. Now, this is the thing. According to Abraham, it takes 17 seconds to start any sort of manifestation. If we take the 17 seconds and we reduce 17, it comes down to an 8. So the 8 is the infinity, right? So when we recognize that, here's that thought that doesn't serve me. Here's that idea that I don't like. Thank you, Spirit, for adjusting my thought process. Thank you for me recognizing that I'm in this human apparatus that was literally imprinted when I was a child. So it's not easy just because you know what you should be thinking to actually think it. So the first point of entry is to have compassion for yourself as you become aware of the thoughts that don't serve you. And rather than villainize yourself like, I should know better, then you just gently walk yourself into the thought that does. And that is the beauty of the experience. All right, everybody. That's it for today. Next Saturday is Mike's official funeral. I'm not really entertaining the idea of my presence being there physically. I've been honoring him in my own way. So I'm just letting you know that because I just have a lot of my own history that I'm walking through. And this one is kind of a big one. having him no longer here. I don't know why I miss him so much. Okay. All right, everybody. Sending lots of love to you. Prayers for all of you. Special prayers for you, Small. And we'll be back next Sunday on the 13th. We'll feel Saturn starting its retrograde. And we will we'll just continue to do our best to support each other. All right, everybody. Peace out. Love you all. See you soon.